I am so excited that we get to spend this time together. I want to educate you all on technology. The first thing we're going to talk about is AI. Yes, AI is going to affect your life and probably your job. You're either going to watch someone at your workplace be replaced by artificial intelligence, or you're going to watch your own job be replaced. Now, is there a hope? Absolutely. And if you start identifying if your job is at risk, you can now start taking actions to prevent yourself from being in a very bad position later on in your life. The idea of you having to retrain multiple times during your life today to be able to stay competitive is real. I think everyone is going to have to get used to learning new tricks all the way through their life. The idea that you go to school in your youth and you're done, I think, is an old-fashioned principle that is going to just go away. Now, let's talk about the next problem: social media and addiction. We're all genned up. In my book, Killer Tech and the Drive to Save Humanity, I discuss this notion that we're genned up, meaning we're so filled with information that we don't even realize that information was devised by our own bias. That's right. We put our own bias into our searches, and then we expect those searches to bring back results that we like. And it's because the results actually thrill us, delight us, we stay on these platforms because the searches make us stay, because the searches yield us results we like. So what's so interesting is social media has allowed us to bathe in our own censorship, because we're censoring out ideas we don't like, and we actually spend time with ideas we really like, not realizing that's one of the reasons why we can no longer be in a room with someone who has an opposing opinion, because we're so subjected to our own opinions that we created with our own bias, that a new opinion, something that we don't agree with, just seems so bizarre, so completely nonsensical, that people rail against that notion. They don't like being told there are other opinions out there in the world, because the devices that they own tell them those opinions don't exist. But I have good news. If we all get together and share our mutual opinions with each other, even if we don't like those opinions, and we start to reorganize our thinking to realize that everyone's opinion should be reflected on, there should be the ability to compromise into a commonality of opinion. Our society should be able to make most people happy most of the time if we're willing to compromise. I'm not suggesting you're always going to win or get what you want. What I'm suggesting is together we can approximate a good thing for all of us. But the first thing we have to do is be willing to have a dialogue. And social media, because of the way it's designed to lock your eyeballs, it is designed to addict you. And those addictions go far wider and deeper than anything I've just described when you start thinking of pornography, and if you start thinking about all the different movements that are occurring, and the lack and loss of innocence that's occurring throughout our society. You know, when you look at statistics and you look at what's occurring with youth, and especially with all of the different evils that you hear about from the predators and from all the people that are doing harm to our kids, and you realize there are millions of cases and very few arrests, because it's very hard in this digital world right now to figure out who are the good guys and the bad guys. And so predators take advantage because they also know the laws are a little behind. And with the laws being behind the technology, it's hard to actually bust people. And then when you try to bust someone today, it's hard to get DAs, district attorneys, that are willing to prosecute. Society has changed. And I'm not suggesting that softer DAs is a bad thing. I'm not suggesting any of this is bad. What I'm suggesting, though, is with it all coming together at the same time, society has changed. And what we don't realize is that we're losing innocence every day. Our kids are losing their innocence. And that makes me sad. It's something we can correct. We have to come together. We have to decide what laws are we going to actually prosecute. And we really have to decide that as a society. And that was going to require what I was talking about before, dialogue. So we need to get active with dialogue. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. And the drive to save humanity, which comes from my book title, is what the Digital Bill of Rights and this idea of user agreements is all about. We sign user agreements. Do you like being called a user? Because I don't. User agreements need to be changed to human agreements. And in the human agreements, we should have the capacity to be able to delete content from, for example, all the big services like YouTube, Meta, etc. And if we have a bad night, we should be able to take down information. We should be able to enforce the deletion of that information from archiving engines because we should be able to own our content. The content shouldn't just be owned by other people. And if crypto can with a wallet be tracked worldwide, and if we can track crypto, we can track our digital assets, the things that we own. So in the Digital Bill of Rights, I want to talk about ownership. I want to talk about the ability for you to own the content that you actually buy. Why can't we own our content any longer? Why does Sony, which just happened, why does Sony get to take down games and content that you paid for, and now you don't own it anymore because you can no longer access it? In my future, we will have a digital wallet that proves you own that asset. And if you can find a means to play it back other than Sony, you should be able to do that because you have the proof that you paid for that intellectual property. I believe giving ownership back to people will actually make people happier. One of the things about our new internet society is people are less happy. And perhaps the less happy because they also really don't own or don't actually ever, they can't really collect like we used to because everything has a slight unknown quality to it. So for example, if you go into Netflix, you might not see those same movies or that roster ever again. So there's an urgency to our lives. And I think that urgency, because we don't own anything, we don't have anything that's a keeper, has made us more neurotic, again, unhappy. And these are things, again, that we can change simply by realizing ownership is important. And I want to reestablish ownership in a digital world. And that comes with the Digital Bill of Rights. And then finally, and I think this is really important. I mean, when you're looking at our lives, we really have to go back to treating human beings as special. And user agreements don't cut it for me. Human beings deserve human agreements. And human agreements, in my opinion, will actually bring back another tenet that we've lost, which is the ability to be fallible, the ability that human beings make mistakes. And in these agreements, we have to acknowledge that the content we put out into the world might be flawed. And there has to be a way for us to reclaim that. And I think reclaiming our humanity is what this movement is about. We have to honor the fact that we're going to be, and this is true, we're going to be dealing with computers, artificial intelligence, robots, and we're going to be dealing with lots of different angles trying to steal our, our stuff, our lives, our eyeballs, our minds, because all of these items are a distraction away from some of the core tenets of what I think is important. And what I think is important is what makes us human, what we own, what we can completely control. And the lack of control that we have today, I think, is making people feel uneasy. And finally, if we're going to ask people to stop laying flat, that's the notion that they have nothing really to work for, so why bother? But then we have to give them something to actually work for, which is the ownership of stuff. So I disagree with this notion, you will own nothing, be happy. I think that is why we are unhappy, because we need to own stuff. And we need to get back to those ideas of ownership, humanity, fallibility, and finally, we must protect innocence. Thank you.